Okay, I know I come to this conclusion every time a Super Edition is announced, but it's getting harder to ignore the pattern. These 3 most recent Super Editions are all about deputies that are either now leader or are very likely to become leader. I feel like the writing team is setting up some sort of all-star team of well-developed leader characters that will likely take full shape by the end of the Broken Code story arc. So I originally thought that Bramblestar Storm was part of this pattern, but Squirrelflight just got her own Super Edition announced for 2019. So does this confirm that Squirrelflight will become leader after Bramblestar? Well, I think so, and honestly, it's great news. Squirrelflight is just one of those characters that we desperately need more development for. And it would also be great to have a strong new female leader. Oh, and don't tell me that Squirrelflight is too old to be leader. She is the same age as Crowfeather, who will also likely become leader, and she is younger than Bramblestar, Leafstar, and Misty Star, who are all currently leaders. The only thing that would really stop Squirrelflight from being leader is the fact that Bramblestar still has basically all his lives. But we've already seen from Tigerstar and Rowenstar that life counts don't matter. If Squirrelflight being leader is what the writing team demands, there are no existing conditions that will stop her. And the writing team probably wants her to be leader. Having old characters become relevant again is always a great way of getting older fans interested in going back to the series and giving new fans motivation to keep reading to find out what eventually becomes of their favorite cats. The writing team is not giving us a 500-page book building up Squirrelflight's character called Squirrelflight's Hope just so she can die as deputy. No, she will be leader, and that's a good thing. From her first appearance, Squirrelflight was a really unique protagonist that was packed full of personality. She was feisty, she was stubborn, she was impatient, determined, loving, irritable, annoying, passionate. She's just so full of life. Now, compare that to Brambleclaw. I mean, Brambleclaw is cool, and loyal, and ambitious, but you know, so was Firestar, and so was Lionblaze, and so was Greywing, and so was, well, you get the point. Squirrelflight, and to a lesser extent Leafpool, were really breaking new boundaries for what could be expected out of a Warriors protagonist, and they really paved the way for the unique protagonists that came later. Now, I will admit that Squirrelflight comes off as a little too perfect in the new Prophecy books. She's always right, and everything works out a little too nicely for her. Also, her relationship with Brambleclaw was executed very poorly at certain points, making it really hard to believe that the two wanted to be together at all. Although, I can also admit that the new Prophecy had several other things wrong with it that are far worse than Squirrelflight. Anyways, I already made a video about Squirrelflight in the new Prophecy last year. Honestly, it's all pretty far back at this point. To get a better idea of how good of a leader Squirrelflight would be, I should really look at all the change she went through since then. Now, she does sort of have a slight case of the Firestar effect going on, where she acts more as a minor character. But she still has some great moments, and her upcoming Super Edition should definitely spice things up. Of course, the most notable part of Squirrelflight's life is her decision to help Leafpool raise her kids, keeping her secret safe. Squirrelflight and Leafpool's family bond is probably the best executed in the entire series. When something goes wrong in Squirrelflight or Leafpool's life, it really affects the emotions of the other. Squirrelflight keeping Leafpool's secret is just incredibly selfless, even though Yellowfang had to lie to her to make it happen. I know that Leafpool and Squirrelflight could have just said they found the kits and gave them the Fern Cloud, but that really wasn't what Leafpool wanted. I mean, Ferncloud would have just ended up giving Fox Kit and Ice Kit more attention. With Squirrelflight acting as their mother, the three would have so much more love from a cat who was actually related to them. Also, they would get to grow up with Brambleclaw as a father. Of course, Squirrelflight had to lie to Brambleclaw to make this happen, and that eventually led to a severance in their relationship, but telling Brambleclaw would have just complicated everything. Brambleclaw was just so happy to be a father. Squirrelflight didn't want to ruin that. Brambleclaw always wanted kids, and at the moment, Squirrelflight believed fully that she was incapable of having kids thanks to Yellowfang. This was the only way for Brambleclaw to be a father. It wasn't the perfect decision, but there really wasn't a perfect decision in this scenario. So, with a little bad luck, Squirrelflight does eventually face the consequences of keeping the secret. She has to deal with Leafpool's kits being dragged into the Ashford drama, Brambleclaw losing his ability to trust her, and Holyleaf having a mental breakdown that has huge consequences that take her a very long time to recover from. All of this disaster because Squirrelflight loved Leafpool enough to keep her secret. This is really what makes Squirrelflight and Leafpool such an amazing pair of sisters. Squirrelflight was willing to sacrifice all of her reputation just to maintain the most important relationship she has. Say whatever you want about Squirrelflight not truly loving Brambleclaw or whatever, but in the end, family comes first, and Squirrelflight knows that her sister is more important than her love life. Brambleclaw has sort of been a jerk to Squirrelflight in the past, and their relationship hasn't been the strongest. It was honestly about time that Squirrelflight put a little distance between herself and Brambleclaw to give them time to figure out if they should really be together. So, both Squirrelflight and Leafpool have to deal with rejection from their clan and the kits that they shared. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's not a complete loss because they both still have the one most important thing: each other. It's really sweet to see them interact in the Omen of the Stars books. They are noticeably more subdued, but they are fighting through it together, taking the long road to recovery and rebuilding trust within ThunderClan. It's really sweet, and it really makes me happy to see them both have victory at the end of it. Leafpool going back to her medicine cat duties, and Squirrelflight becoming deputy. It's really amazing that Squirrelflight grew from the pesky little apprentice she was into the strong, calm, and confident deputy of ThunderClan. Her position is well deserved in my opinion. Squirrelflight was the most experienced cat in ThunderClan, younger than Bramblestar at the time. Choosing her was the best way to ensure that the deputy would be both talented and able to serve for a long time. Also, Bramblestar and Squirrelflight have so much experience working together. They are exactly what ThunderClan needs. Moving forward, Squirrelflight gets back together with Bramblestar and manages to have kits of her own. It's nothing particularly interesting, but it does add to the more mature Squirrelflight that I have come to respect. That brings us to the present. Squirrelflight is getting her own Super Edition next year that will take place after the events of A Vision of Shadows. The title of the Super Edition is Squirrelflight's Hope, which doesn't tell us much, but the working title that Kate gave us before the title was finalized does tell us a lot. Squirrelflight's Kin. So, one thing we've had with recent Super Editions is the fact that they answer questions about the relationships that fell unresolved at the end of Omen of the Stars. Bramblestar's Storm developed Bramblestar and Squirrelflight's relationship. Tigerheart's Shadow helped conclude the Dovewing and Tigerheart romance. And Crowfeather's Trial has been confirmed to develop the relationship between Breezepelt and Crowfeather. So, Squirrelflight's kin looks to be following this as well, with a working title that heavily suggests that a major theme of the book will be surrounding her connection with a family member. But which cat? Well, Leafpool, obviously. I mean, it could be Alderheart, but Leafpool is the only cat from Squirrelflight's family that currently has a significantly developed relationship with Squirrelflight. The majority of Super Editions are focused on further developing existing plotlines rather than creating new ones. What better plotline is there than the relationship between Squirrelflight and Leafpool? They've had a huge connection developed in the New Prophecy and Power of Three, but it never had a satisfying conclusion in Omen of the Stars or A Vision of Shadows. Now is the time for them to shine. So that's a pretty safe prediction right there, so I have one more prediction that is less likely, but still possible. Aside from developing existing relationships, Super Editions also have a common theme of killing characters off. In a book that exists to conclude the relationship between Squirrelflight and Leafpool, it might just be possible that we lose Leafpool in this book. It sounds crazy, but then again, we got a second Tiger Star in last year's Super Edition. The writing team loves crazy, especially when it can lead to the Warriors books having huge events that you don't want to be spoiled, which incentivizes readers to read the books before they can be spoiled, or if they are spoiled, read the books to figure out how said spoilers came to be. Also, ThunderClan still has 3 medicine cats, and I sort of doubt that the writing team would want them to have 4 if they were to create a new medicine cat protagonist in the Broken Code story arc. Leafpool might only still be alive because they're waiting for a major book to end her story with. But that's just my prediction for Leafpool. I can still see it going either way, and I am excited to read Squirrelflight Super Edition when it comes out next year.